Imagine you are walking through a familiar space when the light switches off. You know the layout, you know where the exits are, but in the sudden dark, you feel a presence breathing just inches from your face. For those on the graveyard shift, routine is a tool for survival. Between the hours of midnight and dawn, you pass the time through mechanical repetition, walking the same halls and checking the same locks until the movements become automatic. John is a veteran guard who has patrolled these halls for years. His shifts are typically so uneventful that he has come to view the building as a solved puzzle, a place where nothing unexpected ever happens. But tonight, the basement feels different. He hasn't seen or heard anything specific yet, but as he crosses the threshold, a heavy weight settles in his chest. The familiar routine no longer provides the comfort it did just 24 hours ago. This distress stems from a failure of prediction. Our senses normally verify our surroundings to keep our heart rate stable, but when an environment stops providing familiar anchors, the nervous system shifts into a state of high alert panic. John is reacting to a threat his logic can't yet identify. The basement's layout reinforces unease. A dense grid of pipes and massive ductwork creates a labyrinth of blind spots. Restricted airflow leaves stagnant air and the smell of decay. Sounds don't dissipate, they bounce off concrete, trapped in the dead ends. In this windowless environment, there are no external cues to mark the passage of time. Without the sun or the sound of traffic, 5 minutes of walking can feel significantly longer, distorting John's sense of how long he has been underground. Under the stuttering fluorescent lights, his eyes struggle to adjust. Every time the bulbs flicker, the shadows across the pipes seem to shift, forcing his brain to constantly reevaluate whether those dark shapes are stationary objects or something moving. This architecture essentially prepares the mind for fear. By stripping away clear lines of sight and reliable lighting, the basement turns a person's own senses into a source of constant low-level stress. John attempts to manage his rising heart rate by focusing on his equipment checks. He forces himself to walk toward the boiler and the electrical panels, hoping that finishing his tasks will provide a sense of control over the environment. A faint noise breaks the silence. It sounds like the rustle of clothing or a foot shifting on concrete. He stops and scans the area with his flashlight, but the corridor appears empty. He immediately looks for a mechanical explanation. He tells himself it's the sound of steam in the pipes or the building's concrete foundation cooling in the night air. He tries to dismiss the dread as a symptom of exhaustion. The power suddenly surges, and the overhead lights buzz loudly before cutting out. John is left in total darkness, the hum of the building replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence. The noises return, but they are no longer ambiguous. He hears slow, deliberate footsteps hitting the floor, and they are growing louder as they approach his position. This is where rationalization fails. When the evidence of a localized threat becomes this specific, the brain can no longer bridge the gap with excuses about old pipes or tired eyes. The presence is real, and it is close. John fumbles for his flashlight and clicks it on. The beam cuts through the dark, shaking erratically as the adrenaline hit makes his hands tremble. He sweeps the light across the rows of pipes and storage crates. Each movement of the beam creates new, towering shadows on the walls, until the light finally stops on a corner at the end of the hall. The light illuminates a figure in the corner. It is a dark, featureless silhouette at an unnatural height, its head nearly touching the ceiling. It remains perfectly still. It doesn't move toward or away, and doesn't react to the light. It simply stands there, fixed in its position. John tries to turn and run, but his legs don't respond. His nervous system has entered a state of tonic immobility, a biological freeze response where the muscles lock up despite a desperate conscious urge to flee. The body has effectively hijacked the mind's intent. Even as every instinct screams to get away, the muscles remain unresponsive. It is a total biological shutdown, occurring at the exact moment movement is most necessary. A sudden surge of terror breaks the hold on his muscles. John pivots and begins a frantic, uncoordinated sprint toward the exit. He runs through the dark corridors, his flashlight beam bouncing wildly off the pipes as he navigates the maze on pure adrenaline. He doesn't stop until he reaches the security office and locks the door behind him. Though he is physically safe, his heart rate won't settle. He sits in the bright office light with his nerves frayed, unable to look away from the monitors or consider the possibility of sleep. In the weeks following the incident, the image of the entity persists. His previous sense of security in the building has been replaced by a constant expectation of a threat, making it impossible for him to return to the basement alone. An encounter like this changes the brain's relationship with the dark. Once the expectation of safety is broken by a direct threat, the mind continues to scan for that same tall shadow in every empty room and every unlit corner. Have you ever had an experience that changed how you feel about a place you once knew? Share your stories in the comments below. For more explorations into these true horror accounts, subscribe and stay with us.